asked, بِأَيِّ ذَنْبٍ قُتِلَتْ, for what sin was that child killed? So in other words, on the day of judgment, you as a mother or father who killed your child, you are not going to talk. But the child will be given the life and will be given the permission to answer why was she or he killed. And what do you think that child is going to say? So the Quran also tells us that وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَوْلَادَكُم مِّنْ إِمْلَاقٍ, that do not kill your children out of fear of poverty. نَحْنُ نَرْزُقُكُمْ وَإِيَّا. It says that we provide for them and you. So if we look at the reasons, maybe if we hurry to look at the reasons why people kill their children or abort, we see that sometimes people do abortion.
Now let's stick on family planning. We will come to that. Yeah. As in prevention.
Now you are confusing me. What is our topic?
Family planning.
Not family planning and abortion.
Yeah, let's stick on family planning right now.
Because now you are going to confuse me. If you are going to give me only 5 minutes and say talk about it, I will have to find a way that I can address and articulate myself.
Yeah, let's talk about family
unless
planning.
If we are going to have one topic and say today we are only going to talk about family planning.
Yes.
And then another time we are going to talk about abortion.
Let's stick on family planning for now.
So yes. Today we are only going to talk about yes. Family planning.
Yeah.
Okay, if we are going to talk about family planning, then we are saying that the reasons for family planning, it is, why do people do family planning? People do family planning because probably they want to space up.
In Islam,
they want to space up their children. They do that for several reasons. And sometimes there are actually about 6 reasons why people do family planning. And Islam, it considers all these 6 different reasons why people do family planning. And it answers each and every one of these reasons why people do family planning. Sometimes we may rush to say that does Islam allow or does Islam not allow? But if we are pragmatic and if we are realistic, I take you back to a country in Asia that is known as China. In China, until 2015, there was one-child policy. And then that one-child policy was elevated to 2 and then to 3 children, which meant that my doing family planning was not informed by my religion, but the country that I'm living in. If we were to look at people in China who were to have more than 2 children, they were going to be penalized amount of about 15,000 American dollars, which was known as the welfare fare, because they said if you had more than 1 child, you are putting a burden upon the children. So in that instance, we would want to know that if you are a Muslim living in China, where such a rule or such a law exists, what does my faith tell me about that?
Yes.
But then there is family planning that happens, that people choose to, both the husband and wife, they choose to plan their families. In Islam, there is something that is known as azl. Azl is coitus interruptus, which is, or in short, withdrawal, wherein the man, when he reaches that excitement and is about to plant the seed into the woman, he withdraws himself and then the seed is spilled out. Now, according to Islam, is that allowed or not allowed? I know I have heard people talk about onani and this same method, but in Islam, that is allowed because the Prophet did not condemn those people who were doing that. Because there are several reasons that we cannot pay a deaf ear towards, we cannot ignore. There are some people who will be having medical conditions that if they are going to have kids at that time, it may be dangerous to their health. So in that instance, it is allowed to space up the children. And that is why when you look at one of the American activists who was known as Margaret Sanger, who was also known for her activism and bringing about the birth control. She was a child who was from a family of 11. And her mother died when she was in her 50s. And she said that one of the reasons why what led to the death of her mother was her health deteriorated because she had given birth 11 times and she had had 7 miscarriages. And that weakened her system and she died as a result of that. When her mother's coffin was put in front of her, and the father was there, she openly blamed in front of everyone her father to say that you are the one who led to the death of my mother because you gave her one child after the other and some children she lost through miscarriages. So now if you look at this from a medical perspective, can that happen? Was that true? Yes. Medically, sometimes there are people who get affected by such. Now, Islam considers it if a trustworthy Muslim doctor advises you that in this instance, you are not to have another child, then in that case, you have to follow that. But not from any Tom and Jerry in the street who comes and tells you that, no, you have too many children. No. And what is prevalent today is many people, they don't want children because they think children are expensive to look after.
Yes.
And that is the main reason why they do family planning. And some, they want to go to work and they say, I can't have, every year a child, every year a child, and I'm going to end up losing my job. So these are the reasons which people have. So Islam does not give a blanket ruling to all this. Islam says that the reasons themselves, they must be valued reasons that will allow this practice to become permissible for a person.
Yes.
But again, when we adopt these practices, we know there is a plethora of means and methods that a person can use for contraceptives or for family planning. You have the injection, you have got the pill. I think one of the pill it was achieved by Margaret Sanger in the early 1950s, 1951, after she had sought the help of a medical researcher, a medical doctor. And that's when that was legalized. But for our own information, even in America, abortion, family planning was not allowed. Let's forget about abortion.
Yes.
Why? Because America was actually ruled on the fundamentals of faith. And even today, if you look at the Christians, they still do not allow this family planning. Let what God wishes to be. And don't be afraid of what will happen to your children. God will look after them, because we have seen since time immemorial, our parents never had these family plannings. Now we have them in the form of injections, the pills, and the condoms. And we also have this where the men's tubes are tied. And we also have temporary and permanent family planning methods.
Yes.
So Islam, vasectomy, that is men, tying their tubes. So it can either be permanent or it can be temporary. But Islam says the permanent one, it is not allowed. But you see again,
meaning that Islam is maybe family planning is permissible for valid reasons. In a way, maybe I don't want to have children who are maybe 6 months, maybe a year older than the other. So in that regard, it's allowed, but not in a way that I just permanently remove my tubes.
Having children is not your decision. Having children is the decision of the Almighty God. So I just want us to correct that. Because there are some people who think that they are in charge of how many children they are going to have or they may not have. There are many people who want to have children, but God has not decided for them to have children. There are many people who wanted 1 or 2 or 3 children. Today they have got 6 or 7 or 8. There are some people who did not want to have children, but today they have children. Having children is a decision of the Almighty God. That's what Islam teaches us. But also Islam teaches us that the more children you have, the more you are contributing to the growth and to the large
Population.
number, not
Yeah.
only of ordinary human beings, but of believers. Because my children are going to follow in my footsteps and
Yeah.
follow my belief. So the more children we have as Muslims, the more the number of Muslims is going to grow. And if you look at what China was, I'm looking at China as a case study.
Yeah.
What China's policy of one child per family led to, there was very low levels of fertility until the government had to revisit again their policy. Why? Because that was now bearing negative results other than that what they had envisaged. They thought that this is what is going to happen. So we also have had a situation in other countries, if we are to cite them, there are too many, where they ended up paying people for having children. You look, if you study
Yes.
the European history,
Yeah.
you will find out that
That's
people were
true.
now being paid to have children.
Yeah.
Why? Because now the society was now becoming imbalanced. No one wanted to have children. And you have a country of old people, old Magogos and
Yes.
old, so it is an imbalanced nation. So we need to allow God to play his role. What God instructed us according to Islam is we must get married. And when we get married, why do we get married? It is the way that the Almighty God has put in place for us to procreate. So marriage is an institution where procreation has been legalized. Outside marriage, we cannot do that. And while we are doing this act of procreation, there are also other benefits. You too, you are going to enjoy yourself.
Yes.
The Quran states that nisa'ukum harful lakum. Your women are like your field, so you approach them.
So maybe in Islam, are we allowed to just have sex for fun, in sexual intercourse for fun?
You will have to elaborate on that. If you are husband and wife,
Yes.
you have sex.
Because in Islam, we are not allowed to do sexual intercourse without marriage.
In Islam, you can have sex in the morning, sex in the afternoon, sex in the evening, and sex at home, and sex when you go on a vacation in a hotel. You are allowed. But when you have sexual intercourse, there is a prayer that we are told that Allahumma jannibni mina shaitan. Oh Almighty God, protect me from the devil and protect my offspring from the devil. The only thing that you must be afraid of when you are having sexual relationship is the influence of the devil to take over your progeny. Would it please you to be a parent to a child who is going to be an instrument in the hands of the devil? So when we have children, our desire should be that this, my child, should be an instrument in the house of the Almighty God, who will be a means for people to see eternal salvation, not eternal condemnation.
That prayer, I made it only if I have a thought of having a child.
No, when you want to have sex, every time, because when it doesn't mean that when you form a thought of having a child, you're going to have children. So that's why I said children are a blessing
God.
from the Almighty God. It doesn't mean that if you are going to have sex 10 times a day, you are going to have children. There are some people who they got pregnant. And the other, I saw this was a reality TV of DNA testing of parents. And I saw this young man saying that, no, but I just had sex with her only for 1 time. And it was not for a long time. He's saying, no, this can't be my child. And they said, who told you that even if you had sex for 1 second, it can be enough
There can be a child.
to cause a child to be born out of that? So I'm saying, majority of the times when we are having sexual relationship, we have it with the desire to enjoy ourselves, our partners, but we must make sure that it is done within the confines of the Islamic legal law. And after that, while we are enjoying ourselves, God will also bless us with children. And as we know that it is through sex that children are going to be as a result, we must also pray for God to protect our children from being taken over by the devil.
Thank you so much.
Enjoying your wife, enjoy her. The Quran tells us that you must enjoy each other, enjoy each other's warmth and comfort, and you must also be like garment. A woman and a man, they are like a garment to each other. They give protection, they give warmth, they give comfort to one another. That's what we should supposed to be as a husband and wife. But if you also, in conclusion, if you also want to make sex the primary object of your marriage, then what will happen when there is no more fire in your husband? What will happen if your wife cannot, satisfy you sexually?
We will come back to that one.